Good morning again, everyone. My name is Dolapo. Again, I have a namesake, Ife Dolapo. I'm Olu Dolapo. Nice to meet you. Well, nice to meet everyone. Thanks, Agbeke, for doing that. Because now you've inspired me, and I know that I can do it in 10 minutes too. So sorry, I have paper. So this next few minutes is really looking at going from this fan is serious. Going from yes, I don't mind. Going from employer to owner. So that's strategic transition to entrepreneurship. I'm actually personally in an interesting place because I'm still in between sort of both. I haven't left my full-time job completely, but I'm also running a business. So I'm going along that transition. So I'm also, speaking to myself and hopefully any of you who are going through that. So this is really not a conversation of, oh, which is better or, you know, quit your job and go into entrepreneurship. It's not that. Entrepreneurship and employment are not, they're not enemies. I think that, I think, Nigeria, even just the way we're structured, huge youth population. There's a huge drive for entrepreneurship, obviously, naturally, because unemployment levels are very high, and so there's a lot of when Nigerians were very entrepreneurial people. Like everybody's, doing some business. Most people, will be doing some kind of business, and so I think it's innately part of, I think culturally, I think Nigerians were wired that way. But in this case, it's not like, okay, well, you have a job. And I think, first of all, it's very important to say, I'll speak from my own experiences. I think employment is very important. Some people will go straight into entrepreneurship, and that's great. Everybody has different paths, but I think employment does a lot for you. There are lots of things. Discipline. Employment will bring discipline. Employment will bring leadership skills. If you work, some people here have worked in firms where they will train you for 2 years. You are going through a very structured leadership training, which helps you build so many things and so many skill sets. It'll help you with communication. It'll help you with even what Agbeke was talking about, financial management. And so employment, I think, personally, I think it's critical. But you can also completely go down entrepreneurship and never work. But I do really believe that employment gives you a very good starting point. And things that maybe you have to go and learn yourself in entrepreneurship, doing it within a company is fantastic. They provide a lot of things that help you on that journey. What entrepreneurship? So I think it's really looking at, at what point are you ready, or sort of how would you transition to entrepreneurship, and even the reasons why. I once quit a job because I didn't like my boss. Is that a good reason to leave your job? Not really. I don't think so. But guess what? If I were in that situation again, I probably would still quit. I had a boss from heaven. But anyways, there are reasons why you should quit and reasons why you shouldn't. That's not a. I don't think that's a good reason. Not for emotional reasons, anyways. But there's a progression that I think you would need to think through, almost like a ready framework or a ready assessment to say, am I really ready to journey into entrepreneurship fully? If that's what you're looking at. I was talking to Agbeke earlier, and she transitioned fully to her other business, even though she, still does other consulting with her previous employer and all of that. But, are you ready to make that move? And so if I break down that ready is, revenue. For the service or the product that you're providing, is there already a clear income line? I work in a space where it's a mix of social impact and entrepreneurship. So I have a recycling company where I collect recyclable plastics, cans, cartons, and then we pre-process them and sell them to manufacturers who use these materials to produce new things. My ultimate goal is to be able to actually produce some kind of finished product, but I'm not at that scale yet. I'm not there yet. So the first thing is, with whatever it is that you're looking to go into, within entrepreneurship, can you generate some income? You need to be able to. I, from a passionate side, from the environmental side, I could do that, but I very quickly needed to figure out, how is this? How am I going to cover my costs? How am I going to get equipment? How am I going to pay the people that work for me? So all of that, it has to be very clear. Can your business generate income? If you can't, don't bother starting. It seems very basic, but a lot of times we're passionate about things, and we might sometimes lose sight of what that income generation line really should look like. Do you have the E? So I'm going through a ready framework. So that's the R. Do you have the revenue? Emergency fund. When you're going into entrepreneurship, you do need to have some income that you can fall back on. Can you survive leaving a job where you were getting a sure paycheck at the end of the month? Can you go on for another 6 months or so without having a fixed income that's coming in? What's really your advantage or your competitive edge? What is it that you're doing? If Dolapo says, she's into fashion, how is she doing her fashion differently from the next person who has a fashion house? What are you doing differently? And then the demand, what are you seeing already from what it is, the product or the service you want to provide? Agbeke says she saw, small businesses who didn't have structure around their finances, their accounting, and it's like, okay, I can actually provide this service. My friend runs this business. She clearly needs help in this area. Can you pay for this service? I can help you with this. So really looking at what, seeing if customers will pay for what it is you want to give. You might think it's something people might pay for, but then if you do a quick survey, you might find out not as many people want to pay for what you think you want to provide. So really being able to establish that as part of that ready framework. Are you ready to move into entrepreneurship? And then the why is the you. Are you emotionally prepared for it? Because entrepreneurship is, there's uncertainty. Again, it's not, you don't have the cushion of a job. The MD of the company that you work for, whether if the business doesn't make as much money, you're almost still guaranteed that they're going to pay you at the end of the month. He's probably, or she's probably the one having sleepless nights, but you are still going to go to the party on the weekend, and you know that you are still going to get paid. So are you emotionally prepared for the uncertainty as an entrepreneur, if you decide to go down that route? And then really, I think it's important to identify sort of your weak areas. So when you look at all those things, the revenue, you yourself, your emergency fund, the demand for the product or service you have, you need to be able to assess along all those lines and see, am I ready to transition? Is this a good point to do this or not? Because it also could be irresponsible of you, especially if you have responsibilities, to just say, oh, I have this idea, this business idea, and you jump into that, but everybody has responsibilities, whether, in whatever form. So it would be irresponsible for you, just because of the passion you have for an idea, to jump out of a certain situation and go into that, and then you are now a basket case, and people need to donate for you to eat. That's not our portion, in Jesus' name. But we are responsible stewards with the resources, with the talents God has given us. I love the study that we're doing in church, or we've been doing past few weeks, because again, Agbeke mentioned, everybody has been given a talent. So whatever form it is, there's a talent that you have, and so ensuring that you faithfully steward that to create value is absolutely important. And so just even going back to, just mistakes people make when they are going into jobs. Like I said, emotional reasons, you don't want to leave. Typically when you leave like that, you are most likely burning some kind of bridge, and you just never know where things come. Lagos is massive, but it's actually very small. You'd be shocked at how people and companies are interconnected. So as much as possible, you might not like your boss, but at least, leave in a good way, leave without burning bridges. And then really, with entrepreneurship, you're not going to become rich overnight. There's some, maybe if you, I don't know, Bitcoin, crypto, maybe there are some things that might get you rich overnight, but the honest truth is, with entrepreneurship, it's a consistency, it's diligence, it's going to build over time and it will accrue over time. As you are creating wealth, it's, it will happen, but it's not going to happen overnight. So it's not about copying trends. Oh, this was raining, this is the trend, this is the fad, I'm going to go down this line. I work a lot in agriculture, so my full-time job is actually in agriculture, I would say like a project management in agriculture. And to be like, if you're going to plant a tree, a mango tree, for example, a mango tree, anybody have an idea how long it takes to a mango tree to grow? 5, 2, huh? 10? Yes, it actually ranges. If you are using maybe hybrid or you are grafting, it can be anything between 2 to 4 years. If you are using just seeds, it can take anything from 5 to 10 years before fruits start coming out. So it's a long-term investment. And business is kind of the same. You're building your network, you're building your relationships, you're building your customer base. It takes time. And so really just, understanding that is also very important. So when you're looking at your competitive edge, again, it's one of those words like, structure, put structure. What's your competitive edge? It's really a mix of things. Your skill is one. We all have skills, but there are lots of accountants, there are lots of project managers, there are lots of medical doctors, there are lots of everything. But, I think your competitive edge is where your skill comes together with your experience. You've had your unique experiences, either from life, from work, from everything coming together. Your passion. I think for entrepreneurship, your passion is as important as the skill, as important as the experience. And then the problems that you can solve. Every product or service is solving a problem. For me, it was recycling. I just saw the filth, the flooding. You look at the gutters, and it's like, we can do Lagos, 20 plus million people. We consume a lot of pure water, bottled water. There has to be things that we can use this for and ensure that things aren't going into landfills, that we can use them, we can productively convert them into products. And so, but there's, beyond the idea of it, there's so many other things that need to follow. Can you generate an income from it? How are you going to do that? And so the truth is, when you're solving problems, the value will be created. The money will come in, but you need to first be solving a problem. So whether your product or your service has to be solving a problem. It can't just be an idea that you like and you're excited about. And I think, one of the things that, and so I really don't want to say, because even within an organization, you can actually be, there's the word intrapreneur, where you are within an organization and you are, you are like an entrepreneur, but you're using, the company's platform to create value. And that typically happens, I think, as you begin to sort of move up the channel or move up the ladder within the company. So I would say, one thing that I would challenge you all is to, if you are looking in that route or you are already in there, what's that problem that you can solve that people would, willingly pay for? And I'm going to just call one person and say, let's see, can I pick on you because you are my namesake? What is that one problem that you think you can solve that somebody would be willing to pay for?
Okay, so I and my friend, we have an idea recently on assistant services. So we're looking at a way to create flexible assistance to people. So let's say, for instance, you're an executive and you're overwhelmed and you need someone to take care of your administrative duty, but you don't want to hire the person full time.
Yes.
You need a person for like 2 weeks,
Yes.
1 day, 3 days. We're trying to create
project.
Exactly. So we're trying to create something around that presently.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. We literally had a conversation for 20 minutes or so around this. And that need is there. She was talking about her need for that. And here you are literally providing a service. Somebody like her, she paid for that service, she went and found it, but yeah, that's great value. So that's what we need to be thinking as we engage, as we reflect on this journey of employment to entrepreneurship. It might be a full transition, but even as we're making it full, we need to think, are we ready? And really just remembering all those things that we need to go through, so that we are not just making a leap blindly and shooting blanks. So I think that might be it. Your skills are obviously your greatest investment. The value you create is going to be based on skills. So make sure that you are sharpening your skills. You are learning. We're in an age where there's so much heavy use of technology, digital skills. Obviously, that's like almost a no-brainer. You should use it. Learn how to leverage AI to do your work better, whatever it is that you're doing. So hone your skills. And I think entrepreneurship ultimately, whether you're an intrapreneur, because the intrapreneur will stand out from the regular employee, even within an organization. And so that intrapreneur really, you create more options for yourself and you stand out even from the other people in your department. And the same thing with, entrepreneurship, you're creating options for yourself. And I think ultimately we all want to get to a point where we have options. If your company all of a sudden closes down and shuts down, what options do you have? What next? If anything happens like that. So your skills are really your greatest investment. You want to make sure you're honing them and building them. And you don't want to move into entrepreneurship, hopefully not when you're forced to. You want it to be something that, you've thought through and you've kind of graduated, let's say, from your employment into that role. You don't want to be something that you forced in. So the goal is really not to escape employment. That's not the way I would suggest you look at it, but it's more for you to build an opportunity, build a future where you have opportunities that make you no longer dependent on your paycheck. That's ultimately is I would say the goal. And yes, I think that's it. And hopefully we'll get to have Q&A and interact some more. Thank you very much.